Now, it's my understanding they wrote to the judge and requested immediately that their entire action be discontinued. So we would basically, interpret that to mean that they folded like a cheap tent in a light breeze. Now, was our challenge a light breeze? I think it was more like a nuclear missile, and they kind of saw that the bell was tolling for what we still believe is a frankly unconstitutional and ridiculous injunction to get, given the fact that there are already bylaws in Calgary which govern assembly and crowds in a lawful manner.
Adam Soos here for Rebel News with an update on the protestlawsuit.com challenge against the injunction sought by the City of Calgary and Calgary Mayor Jyoti Gondek, which intended to very much limit and stifle people's capacity to protest against vaccine mandates and COVID-19 restrictions. We spoke a little while back with Chad Williamson, who discussed and broke down the problematic nature of this injunction, very much that it stifled people's fundamental rights as Canadians. That week on Friday, Chad Williamson and Williamson Law filed their official challenge against this injunction. The following week, by Tuesday morning, the City of Calgary had completely withdrawn the injunction. To get an update on what exactly happened, we're going to be speaking with Chad Williamson right away.
So this is another case of extreme peculiarity, the kind of which has characterized the last 2.5 years of my career in COVID challenges and constitutional challenges, both in Alberta, federal court to some degree, and of course in this bizarre kind of municipal action. What essentially happened is this injunction has been temporary and it's been in place for a number of weeks, as everybody knows. It's sweeping injunction with potential broad interpretation, catching up any manner of people that are out there. It took us about a week to mobilize and to prepare a robust constitutional challenge to the injunction. This was essentially sent in for filing to the Court of Queen's Bench last Friday. And it was sent in at about 2 o'clock. Now, as well, we also served it on the City of Calgary's council as well. So they had been made aware that we had three respondents challenging the injunction. We had a significant document production to bring a robust challenge to the injunction as well. And on Tuesday morning, it's my understanding that counsel for the City of Calgary sought instructions and wrote to the judge without putting us on notice. Not notifying counsel of actions has been a systematic and systemic problem when dealing with some of these lawyers, and it's we think that it's an infringement of professional courtesy and cordiality, which is something that we afford to other members of the bar and is expected in return. Now, it's my understanding they wrote to the judge and requested immediately that their entire action be discontinued. So we would basically, interpret that to mean that they folded like a cheap tent in a light breeze. Now, was our challenge a light breeze? I think it was more like a nuclear missile, and they kind of saw that the bell was tolling for what we still believe is a frankly unconstitutional and ridiculous injunction to get, given the fact that there are already bylaws in Calgary which govern assembly and crowds in a lawful manner. Now, we wrote to the judge, and we are taking further action because we want costs against the city for all the work that we've done. Typically, the loser in a case has to pay the other side court costs, especially if the other side has responded to allegations. And it's our position that the City of Calgary is the loser in this case, and they should be paying for the mobilization efforts of my office to challenge what, again, is, we say, a fairly ridiculous injunction that they received. The injunction is now gone, at least that's my understanding. Their action is gone, but we are to make now submissions to the court on seeking costs against them. And furthermore, and I think that everyone should take a little bit of solace in this, is that we are now prepared, because we've already gone through the mobilization efforts, to bring an immediate challenge to any potential further injunctions sought by the city. And we will fight those as well. Another thing, I always like to leave people on a positive note. We still have not received one conviction in the last 2 years at trial on the Fight the Fines COVID tickets and in the trucker defense files as well. We are experiencing at least resounding success for our clients in pushing back against this tide of old and evil. And I think people, again, these are dark times, I think, for Alberta, for Canada, and, when we've got ideologies that are kind of seeping their way into what are supposed to be neutral systems. We are scoring victories, and they may be minor, but for the people whose charges are being either tossed or settled for a significantly reduced rate, these are big victories. They're victories for Albertans. They're victories for Albertan families. And frankly, when we've got an injunction of this nature blown to smithereens in the face of righteous and just opposition, this is a victory for Calgarians. I grew up here. I'm from here. My family came to Alberta at the turn of the 20th century, over 100 years ago, and I love this province. And it's been an honor, and it will continue to be an honor to fight for the rights of Albertans and to fly the banner of liberty.
Well, speaking of some of the people who are doing exceptional things in the name of liberty, in the name of freedom, yourself included, but the Democracy Fund, it's great to hear you've had this victory you're pursuing for costs as well. That's exceptional news. Until we have an update on that, which we'll be sure to bring people, the Democracy Fund is paying for this legal challenge. There were quite a bit of costs associated with getting this challenge together. Those costs are covered thanks to your donations at protestlawsuit.com. All of those donations are actually tax receipt eligible and are used for important work like this. So if you do want to support these efforts, go to protestlawsuit.com. This is a victory for the time being, but no doubt there'll be further work in the line, and those costs were already incurred in order to secure this victory. So protestlawsuits.com. Chad, I want to thank you so much for your work and for this important update. And for everyone out there, I want to thank you so much for tuning in. For Rebel News, I'm Adam Soos. As Chad Williamson mentioned, he is going to be launching a challenge to get the costs covered for this lawsuit. But in the meantime, big successful legal challenges like this don't come cheap, and the Democracy Fund is footing the bill. If you want to help make a tax receipt eligible donation to this legal effort, which saw an end to the injunctions in Calgary, you can do so at protestlawsuit.com.